Parent, I know how frustrating it feels to watch your teenager or young adult kid constantly procrastinating, being glued to their digital media devices, giving up when things get a little bit challenging, constantly doubting their ability, not stepping outside their comfort zone. I know how frustrating all of those things feel as a parent, but what if I tell you all of those so called challenges are actually not the real issue? They are actually signals or what I call behavioral manifestations of deeper root causes. So one such deep root cause is actually your children's fear of failure. This hidden fear of failure is what is actually stopping your children from stepping outside their comfort zone, taking action, and stepping into their potential. So, what do we do about this hidden fear of failure? And that is exactly what we're going to discuss in this video. Because listen, parents, unless you take care of this hidden fear of failure, your kid will continue to procrastinate, continue to self-doubt, continue to not take the action they are supposed to in order to advance their goals. So in this video, I'm going to show you a two-step process based on science, research, tested, and proven process to help your teenager or young adult kid eliminate their fear of failure so that they can step into their potential, they can be motivated, they can start taking the actions they need to take in order to advance their goals. So if this is what you are interested in learning more about, the two steps process, please keep on watching. So who am I to discuss this topic? In case we haven't met, my name is Dr. AI, that is actually my name. I'm an award-winning former college professor turned life coach. I have been working with young people for more than 2 decades. I specialize in serving teenagers and young adults, helping them overcome a few major life challenges, including procrastination, lack of motivation, fear of failure, self-doubt, and also I help them enhance their executive functioning skills so that those young people can achieve success and they can reclaim and elevate their confidence and motivation and have the success they deserve in school and beyond. Okay, so let's get started with today's topic, how to help your teenager or young adult kid delete their fear of failure so that they can step into their potential and start taking actions. I will share with you a two-step process. So let's look at the first one. Bang, 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 bang. So the first one, if you want to help your kid overcome their fear of failure, the very first thing you need to do as a parent is to help your kid normalize failure. In other words, they must understand and see fear as a normal or failure as a normal part of learning. So you have to, as a whole family, normalize a failure. And I'm going to give you two reasons based on research to share with you why normalizing our failure is important to help your kid delete or eliminate fear of failure. So the first reason is, so the very first one is if you want to help your kid normalize failure or so that they can eliminate their fear of failure is to remove shame and guilt. Why is this important? I want to share something with you. Hold on, and I hope you can still hear me okay. So I want to share with you this one. So what you see on the screen, it is something called emotional frequency chart and developed by a scientist. And I will link the resource to this one in the description box. So what they did is that they actually studied the frequencies of emotion, just like when you turn on your radio, specific frequencies, you will turn to specific channels. So they did the same thing for human emotions. You can see from the lowest level of emotion, the frequency, I believe, is 20. To the highest, you go all over to the top, which is enlightenment, 700 plus. Okay, so why we must remove shame and guilt? Why? So if your kid is constantly feeling ashamed of failure, is feeling ashamed, feeling so much guilt every time when they fail, they are going to be at the bottom of this frequency. You can see shame and hold on for a second. I need to click this. Sorry. So you can see at the bottom of this, fear and shame, guilt, and even fear, all of those are low level of emotional frequency. And corresponding to those low level of emotional frequency is one specific type of energy, which is contraction, contracted, in contrast to expansion, expanded. So what is contraction? Let me show you using my physiology. This is contraction. And this is, guys, this is exactly what I teach the students in my paid coaching one-on-one program. This process is really powerful. So when I coach my students to share with them what is the contraction energy, you see here, this, look at my body, look at my physiology. This is contraction. It's shrinking, it's isolation, it is playing small. If you have a kid who is actually socially isolating him or herself, like that means your kid is consumed by shame, and guilt. So if that is the case, more shame and more guilt is not going to help your kid embrace failure. It's not going to, right? So when you look at the emotional frequency chart, hold on for a second. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. When you look at the emotional frequency chart, what I highlight here is acceptance. So acceptance here is expansion. So what does this mean? This means that your kid is now going to enter the expansion. That is transformation, right? Like that is growing, that is positive energy. I'm expanding, I'm growing. So unless your kid normalize failure, accept failure as a normal part of their journey, their personal transformation, your kid will continue to be in that contraction energy, being consumed by failure, shame, and fear, right? All of the lower emotion. And that is why we must, very first step in order to help your kid overcome, delete fear of failure is to remove shame and guilt, because those are contraction. And listen, this is actually, this is something I share with parents in my coaching program. So in my coaching program, I mainly work with kids one-on-one, but I also provide coaching support for the parents. Understanding this chart is a very important part of the coaching support I provide for the parents, because oftentimes, again, I'm not here to criticize, I'm not here to judge you, but oftentimes as parents, when we are trying to help our children to transform, we shame, we guilt them, we scream, we yell, we say things that we will regret. It is a very common mistake that parents make. Now you understand why shaming and yelling and trying to make your children feel so guilty of what they did is never going to help them to transform, to have the change that you want to see in your children. Such shaming, guilting, and fear will only want them to stay stuck exactly where they are, being paralyzed by fear, okay? So that is the very first reason why we must normalize fear, so that we can eliminate, why we must normalize a failure so that we can eliminate fear. The second one is you have to understand, if you want to be a good parent, number one, okay, as parents, we have to stay informed and empowered. That is exactly the intention behind my YouTube channel. And by the way, if you are loving my content, please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. So we have to really be informed and empowered. And one thing that we must learn is about how human brain actually functions, so that we can work with our children to help them understand how human brain works, and so that they can work with their brain, not constantly working against their brain. So this is something very important. From this book, one of my favorite books, titled Limitless Mind. Again, this book is actually written by a professor at Stanford University. She teaches mathematics. If you're interested in the book, I will have the link to the book in the description. So let me share with you in the book. And there's a very important chapter, which is actually my favorite chapter. So you can see here, chapter 2, right? So what is the title for chapter 2? Why we should love failures, mistakes, right? So not why we should be disappointed when we fail, why we should be ashamed, why should we feel guilty, but why we should love mistakes, failures. And so in this entire chapter, and chapter 2, study after study, research after research to show you how human brains actually grow the most when we are struggling. Let me repeat this one more time. For your children, their brain actually grows the most when they are struggling, when they are failing, when they are really afraid of this, when they are, they're about to give up. That is when they are trying to figure out an answer. That is when their brain is the most active, trying to figure out something. That is when their brain grows most. So this is the second reason why we must normalize failure. Let me ask you, do you want your children to have a really good human brain? I bet the answer is yes. So if the answer is yes, then we have to normalize failures, because without failures, mistakes, their brain is not going to grow as much as they should. Okay, so that is the first reason. If you want to help your children eliminate fear of failure, the very first step is to normalize failure for 2 reasons I explained. We can never shame our children, or they can never shame themselves into transformation. Never ever. The second is to really understand that our human brains actually grows the most when we are struggling, right? So there's an entire chapter on this. And so the second reason, and is learn to reframe. This is the second reason. Learn to reframe failures, mistakes, and challenges in life. Again, this is something, I have a whole process to do this, but what I'm about to share with you are some of the most important steps to reframe failure. And because you cannot, if failure is so important for human brain to grow, we don't want to get rid of failures. We don't want to get rid of that fear. We don't want to get rid of that failure, right? Because it is a failure that helps us build our characters, build our strength, build our growth. And so very important. So how can we reframe failures? So the first way that we can reframe failure is that we see failure as a normal part of learning. We see failure as a normal part of learning, or to really help our children. So in my coaching program, I really help all of my students to understand that failure is actually a normal part of doing something new, a normal part of learning, a normal part of growth. Once they really understand this, they can really eliminate their fear of failure. Why? Because, this is normal. Why should I be afraid of something normal, right? Ask yourself, today, did you have lunch, or are you going to have lunch? Are you going to be scared? Are you going to have any fear when you are about to have your lunch? I think the answer is no, because everybody have lunch. It is a normal part of the day. So why should we be afraid of something that is a normal part of human routine? The same thing here. If our children, or if your children can see failure as a normal part of learning, why should they be afraid of something that is normal? Okay, so I want to share with you a few learning models. Hold on for a second. Oh my gosh. So you can see this is a real human video, okay? All sorts of noises here. Okay, good. So this is actually a video I did before. If you are interested, and definitely check out that video. I shared some common mistakes in parenting. Again, you can watch the video here or check out the link in the description box. So how can we help our children see and understand failures as a normal part of learning? I will share with you 2 learning models. And in this video, I'm not going to go really deep, because in this video here, that I went really deep to explain those 2 learning models. But here, I will just go over them real quick so that you understand. So this is one of the learning models called Learning Pit, okay, created by James Nottingham. So this learning model called the Learning Pit has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 phases. So in order for a learner from not knowing, kind of here, struggling like, what am I doing? How do I play this? How do I do this math homework to actually eventually achieve success? I understand this. I get this now. So from here to here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 phases. And I will quickly explain them to you, okay? The very first one is, I think I know the answer, right? This is like in the very beginning, you are very naive. For me, when I start my YouTube channel, in the very beginning, I'm like, yeah, I got this. Yes, totally. But as soon as you start, you're like, wow, this is actually hard. This is not as easy as I thought. So for your children, right? Maybe when they start learning how to play, how to learn a new language, when they take a new class, when they join a new club, when they join a new school, every time when they do something new, they will like, as soon as they actually become more engaged in the activity, they will feel like, oh, this is so hard. And then this is the learning pit. Here, I'm confused, I'm frustrated, I'm such a failure, I want to give up. And this is exactly where most people give up. Except the people who understand this process, like people like you who are investing in your time to watch this video, because you can see the pit is actually a normal part of learning. If you do not give up here, if you actually invest in the coaching support, the skill support, the mindset support to overcome the challenge, you will get to the next level, which is, wow, I just need to work harder at this. I think I got it. And I think I'm doing better and better, and then eventually achieve success. Okay, but this is where most people give up. But the point of this learning model is that the pit, the rock bottom, is unavoidable. If you are learning something new, you will have to go through this process. If you are trying something new, if this is the first time you do something, you will have to fail. You will have to go through this. So once I present this model to many of my students, they're like, oh, wow, Dr. I, this is incredible. This is actually the first time someone actually explained to me that failure, mistakes are actually a normal part of learning. And in fact, here, let me quickly explain this. A second, the same thing here. They're talking about the same thing. So this one is called the DIP. D-I-P, the DIP. This is by Seth Godin. You probably cannot see it, but explaining the same thing. So the vertical line is result. The horizontal line is effort, right? So in the beginning, when you put in some effort, you are going to see incredible, very fast, almost immediate transformation. But as you continue on the learning journey, things will get challenging, like here, right? Oh, this is so hard. But as soon as you hit that point, you enter the dip. I want to give up. I'm such a failure. I'm so confused. I'm so frustrated. This is too hard. This is the conversation my students tell me every single day. But again, if you understand this learning process, if you understand rock bottom is a natural part of learning, you will keep going. And then eventually, you will actually achieve success. You'll actually get the results that you deserve. This is why, if I can say a few words, and I also recommend you check out this video in which I explained 11 differences between succeeding in school versus succeeding in real life in terms of the skills required and the mindset required. So failure is there's such a big difference in terms of the role of failure in school versus in real life. In school, I was a college professor for 10 plus years, and I graded hundreds of papers, exams. So in school, we punish. Every time when your children fail, you got an F, lower grade, or C or D. So we really punish failures and mistakes. But in real life, like this book, right? In real life, we have to learn through failures and mistakes. If you never fail, like this quote from Albert Einstein, who actually struggled a lot when he was a student. One of my favorite quotes from Albert Einstein is, if you have never made a mistake in your life, it means you never tried anything new. So think about it. If you never made a mistake, it means that it doesn't mean you are super smart. It just means you never tried anything new. Why? Because every time you learn something new, you will have to go through the learning pit. You will have to go through the dip. You will have to hit rock bottom. That is the definition of learning something new. Okay. So this understanding this model, and I highly recommend you check out that video that I explained the 11 differences, because the sooner that your children can understand the differences between succeeding in school versus succeeding in real life, the skills required, the mindset required, the more prepared your kid will be by the time they graduate from high school or college for real life success. Okay, so I'm going to flip over the pages. And again, I highly recommend you check out the entire video if you want to learn more about this model, okay? Those two models. So I need to go back. As you can see, I have a lot here. So the first one is that understand that failure is actually a normal part of learning. And I presented two learning models to you. And so I hope those two models help you understand why we cannot avoid failure in order to achieve success. Once your kid can really understand, accept, remember here what I shared with you, right? Acceptance. And that means they can actually start to grow, to close the skills gap, to learn new skills. Okay. So the second way to reframe failure is, are you enjoying this? If you're enjoying this, comment, like, and subscribe. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. Okay. So I'm a new channel here. So anyway, the channel is new, but I have been doing this work for 20 years. So the second way that we could reframe failure is, instead of, parent, you have to pay close attention to what I'm about to say here. As parents, I can't tell you how many times when I see a kid struggling with something, parents will be mad. Don't be mad at your kid. The reason that you are mad at your kid when they are failing, when they are struggling, is because you have an unhealthy relationship. Because you are seeing failures, mistakes as a negative signal, right? It means there's something wrong with your children. So can I please shift your mindset on this right now? So do not see failure or challenges, mistakes in your children's lives as a negative signal. Instead, see those things as a positive signal of your children stepping outside their comfort zone. And in fact, I have a comfort zone learning model to share with you. So here, let me share this with you. And I hope, so in my channel, and I was actually watching some other YouTube video talking about how to overcome failure. And I watched a few, I didn't get any new information. And I'm not saying this to judge them, because I think something I'm really proud of for my own channel is that every time I explain something to you, I use research. It is a very scientific approach, okay? So here, this is the second one I'll share with you. This is the one called comfort zone. Okay, so you can see the inner circle is comfort zone, right? So outside the comfort zone is fear. This is every time when you step outside your comfort zone, you are going to be afraid. Your kid is going to be afraid. And guess what? It is normal. And then now they are afraid. Instead of giving up, which is the case for many people, when they do not understand this process, as soon as they enter the fear zone, they give up. And that is wrong, right? So the third circle is called the learning. The comfort, the fear, the learning. This is people who are showing up in life with resilience, with a growth mindset. Okay, I'm really afraid. I don't know how to do this. Instead of giving ourselves excuses after excuses and give up, what can I learn to close my skills gap? What can I learn to close my mindset gap? This is why investing in coaching support can be so powerful. This is still why I invested At this point in my career, outside my master and PhD, I have already invested at least a six-figure into my brain, right? Because I know a good coach can help me close the gap. And then once you learn how to close the gap, you take some action and you'll enter the green colored zone, which is growth. Now you are growing as a result of your fear. So again, you can see from this chart, fear of failure is not bad. What is really bad is doing nothing regarding the fear. But if you are actually doing something, it will be such an amazing opportunity for your children to actually learn new skill, to develop a new mindset so that they can grow like a great muscle building. Okay, so that is this. And I want to use another learning model to explain this process to you. So here, and so this model also shows why we must, as parents, see failures as, instead of being afraid of them, but as a positive signal. Okay, so here what you see on the screen is a model called the 4 levels of learning. Again, in a separate video, I did an entire training on this. You can watch it here or check out the link in the description box if you want to go in details. So here I will quickly explain this. So this model captures anytime when you learn something new from the lowest level, which is unconsciously incompetent. You don't know what you don't know. You don't even know you're so bad at this or so good at this. The second level is consciously incompetent. This means that you actually know you are bad at this. You actually know you don't know something. And if you continue to learn, climb up on the learning journey, and you get to level 3, which is consciously competent, meaning that you know you're pretty good at this, and you still have to think about it, but you know you're pretty good at this. And then the highest level is mastery. This is also called unconsciously competence, meaning that you don't even have to think about it. It has become autopilot, has become your second nature, like brushing our teeth, learning how to use our computer, and learning how to tie our shoes, learning how to use the toilet, learning how to talk, learning how to speak a language, and due to years of practice. So you can do this with almost your eyes closed. And so you don't have to even think about driving a car. That is a perfect example, right? And so what is really interesting about this, for this learning model, between level 2 and level 3, here, so between, as a learner transitions from not good at something to become really good at something, this is where fear shows up, frustration shows up, mistakes shows up, confusion. Like those are all the emotions that your children are like, oh, I don't want them. But guess what? If you don't want them, you will never achieve mastery. Just like this. If you do not go through the fear zone, the learning zone, you are never going to grow. If you don't go through level 2 and level 3, knowing you are really bad at something to knowing you are really good at something, if you don't go through a period of, can be a few months, can be a few years, depending on what your kid is doing, like public speaking. If you have only done like 1 or 2 or 5 public speeches, your kid is probably going to be afraid of it. And guess what? That is normal, right? Research has shown in order to get to the top, you will need at least 10,000 hours of correct practice. Now wrong practice, but 10,000 hours of correct practice in order to achieve mastery. So in order to achieve mastery, your kid will have fear, will have failure, will have frustration, will have mistakes, will have confusion. It is a normal part of learning, okay? So this is what I want to share. So, So that, oh, sorry, I forgot to show this. Yeah. The second way we reframe failure is seeing failure as a positive, not a negative, but a positive signal of our children stepping outside their comfort zone, a positive signal of them climbing up on the learning ladder, the 4 levels of learning, right? A positive signal of them being inside their fear zone and the next learning zone. The key is that you want to do something about it, right? You don't want them to stay inside the fear zone, but do something about it. But anyway, And I want to show you. So those are the two reasons. If you can implement those two reasons right now, I promise you, my friend, you can help your kid delete their fear of failure. This, again, as I said earlier, this is the process that I share with every single student in my coaching program. To give you a case study here, and so in my coaching program, I mostly work with young people one-on-one. So I really enjoy getting to know each of them. So I have quite a few athletes in my coaching program. So with every young person, when they join my program, they will actually do an onboarding assessment. And so the onboarding assessment is a number of questions that I created. So I will share. I'm not going to mention the name here, but you can see here, this is one of the onboarding assessment that one student did for me. He's an athlete, incredible young man, high school student. And so the onboarding assessment has quite a few, at least 20 to 30 questions. So I want to show you two of the questions that I actually highlighted for you. The first question is here. The first question is, what are your primary stress triggers? You can see failing is one of them, and some other things. The second question is, what scares you the most about your future? You can see again, failing shows up. This is actually a very typical response among the hundreds of students I have worked with in the past. Many of them will tell me that fear of failure, fear of judgment, but mostly failing is such a big fear, it stops him from taking action. So this young man, and I will share with you, and this is what I shared with him. Of course, in my coaching program, I have additional tools and learning models and steps that I don't have time to share with you. But those two are some of the learning models I share with this young man. So I want to show you a few days ago. So the parent actually sent me an email. So here, and I blocked out the personal information, but this is an email the parent sent to me. And so what I highlight in yellow color is a quick story. So this young man, he's a soccer player, actually incredible soccer player, and just got some really big scholarship to be accepted into college. So as a soccer player for a long time, his entire high school year, he was afraid. Here, I don't know if you can see here. So he was afraid of taking penalty kicks. I'm not a soccer player, but I know enough about soccer to understand this. So for his entire high school career as a soccer player, he was afraid of taking penalty kicks. So in fact, after I did this, some additional tools, and I think this was a few weeks ago, and I asked him, hey, listen, this was the answer you gave me when you and I just started working a few months ago. How do you feel about failures right now? And he said that he is no longer afraid of failures and mistakes. I was like, God. And then I got this email from the parent who's like, yes, that is 100% the case, because in his entire high school seasons, he was really afraid of doing penalty kicks. But now, because that fear is gone, and he is actually doing penalty kicks, even though this is the I don't know if you can see it, but here in the past he didn't want to take any penalty kicks. But now he's doing them, and even though he has failed not once, not twice, but a few times, and he is still trying. So imagine for a second how your children's lives will be different if they could eliminate fear of failure. They can really step into their potential, they can start taking action, they can really embrace failures and mistakes and rejection as a normal part of learning. As I mentioned earlier, if this is normal, would you be afraid of it? No. The only reason your kid is so afraid of failure is because they see failure as abnormal. But let me shift that for you one more time. It is absolutely normal. So the sooner that you can help your kid, the sooner a young person can normalize a failure, can learn to reframe failure as a positive signal, as a normal part of learning, the sooner they can overcome procrastination, the more they can step into their potential, they can really unleash their potential become unstoppable. Okay, so if you are interested, just like this young man, and the dad is, I don't know if you can see, like he said, thank you. Literally, there are 5 exclamation marks. Like, thank you so much, doctor. I mean, that's why I love doing this so much, because I can literally see transformations. Even though he was afraid of doing the penalty kicks, 4 years high school, he's graduating this year, and he and I, we have only been working for 4 months, and overcame 4 years in 4 months. And that is incredible. And I'm so happy, because I know he is going to become even more unstoppable. His future is unlocked. Sky is the limit, right? And so if you are interested in having your kid working with me one-on-one to overcome their fear of failure, to help them overcome procrastination, overcome self-doubt, really enhance and their executive functioning skills, reclaim, elevate their confidence, motivation, I highly recommend that you book a complimentary consultation with me and to speak with me one-on-one on Zoom. And I will listen to you explaining to me your children's challenges. If your application is approved, I will tell you more about my one-on-one coaching program. So the consultation is complimentary, completely free. I recommend use the link in the description box to book a call with me, and let's have a conversation on Zoom. Okay. And also, I'm very excited to share with you. In a few weeks, I will be doing a free 5-day challenge, completely free. And in the challenge, I'm going to dive a lot deeper on many of the topics I mentioned on my YouTube channel. And I'm going to show you 6 really powerful shifts that you can make today as a parent of teenager and young adult, so that you can help your kid reclaim and elevate their confidence, motivation, so that your kid can achieve success. Not only just in school, but in real life, because that is my intention. My intention for you as a parent is to really help your children have real life success, because I believe schooling, what's the point of doing schooling for the sake of schooling? School is a vehicle for a greater end, right? So for a greater purpose in life, and that is to income, impact, and fulfillment, right? So if you want to, again, in the description box, this challenge will not be forever free. At the time of this recording, it is still free, but I cannot promise you that this challenge will forever be free. So if you want to take advantage of the free challenge for now, and use the link in the description box to register for the challenge. And I'm so excited. We'll be spending 5 days on Zoom every single day with me, and I will teach you something really powerful, and you can implement right away and see immediate changes. And you will also have a chance to engage in Q&A with me, ask me whatever questions you have regarding your teenager or young adult. Okay, so if you enjoy this video, I highly recommend you check out this video here. In this video, I show you when your kid is actually feeling paralyzed by their fear of taking action, fear of failure, what you can do about it. Now you learn how to eliminate the fear, then what to do next when your kid is in a challenging situation. Okay, so definitely check out that video and learn more about that. Thank you so much for watching my video. Comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. I really appreciate you. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!